one of the assignments that we have, like a needs assessment assignment,
Mm.
you told me that in the beginning it would take you maybe 30 to 40 hours to do one of them. And now you're at a place where you're doing it in 8 or less.
Maybe 8 to 10 hours. I think like 6 to 8 hours is probably just for the information, and then probably 2-ish hours, 3 hours for editing. But that
See.
also, and not just editing, but like a title, a table here, and like kind of like the fine tuning of
Mm-hmm.
everything, making sure my references are good. And it also depends on, is it a subject I'm knowledgeable on? If you send me a diabetes something, 5 hours. I probably already have the sources ready
Mm-hmm.
and could pump it up. But if it's some like geographic atrophy or some disease I have no idea what it
Mm-hmm.
is, it's probably gonna take longer.
Yeah.
Not even probably, it will take
Yeah.
longer. Yeah.
But it was really good to set my expectations because I was I was slash am taking a long time
Hmm.
just doing them, and it was like, is this what's going to be like forever? Because
No, no,
and so it's repetition
it
makes
is.
you more efficient, and not you're just not faster. You're better.
Yeah.
Like you said, your revisions were significantly. They were each time they were coming back less and less.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think actually now, just 'cause I haven't thought about this before, but that might be why, or play a part in why it's difficult to land a freelance job at the start. Because a lot of freelance jobs will pay per hour, or they'll set this, so they'll either pay per hour or they'll have a set fee for the project.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a brand new writer, they don't know how long it's going to take you to do this. And maybe they have an expectation that this should be a 12-hour project, but it takes you 30 hours. As the client, you don't want to be billed for 30 hours for something that you thought was going to be 12 hours billable.
Yeah.
And so at the start, you will lose clients if you're trying to go that freelance route to grab your own clients instead of working for a company that allows freelance work. You will lose clients
Mm-hmm.
if you're overbilling for them,
Mm-hmm.
or overbilling for work. And so as you're doing that client relations and you're trying to land these contracts, these jobs, it might be better to set expectations of total compensation of the project versus hour based,
Hour based.
and communication of this is how long we expect it to take, that kind of stuff. Because and that might not just be a new writer thing too, but just skill based.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm used to writing this type of thing over here, and I got a project for this over here that's a different style,
Mm-hmm.
that could take me longer because I have
Yeah.
to learn the style first. And do you bill for that? Do you not? Is there an expectation of what they think it should be for? So I think that that will play a role in how you land your first job too. Um, yeah, just a random thought. I don't think I've thought about that
No,
before, but
that's really helpful.
yeah,
Uh, for for people who are looking to get into the work so that they're not just writing 3 articles on their own, and they're like, well, the pharmacy pathways video said I can write a couple and then be ready to go. And then now they're losing clients. They're having a bad reputation
right.
now because they're charging way too much, and the quality is not even that good because it takes time to
Yeah,
get there.
yeah.
So when would somebody know when they're ready to be a freelancer without the supervision of an editor?
That's a good question. Um, I think everybody should have an editor. Editors are great. But I mean, I think most of when you're getting a client like that, and if you're really going the freelance route, a lot of times built into the contracts, they'll have like an X amount of revisions that they'll send back to you before the final
Okay, so
draft. So it'll be like,
they'll have an editor on their
oh
end.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, and they'll like in whatever contract it'll say, we're allowed 2 revisions.
Okay.
So here's the final draft, and then they'll look at it and they'll send back, marked up, these are the things we like, these are the things we don't like, or whatever. And
Okay.
you can cut down on that, the amount of revisions, by just having good communication with whatever client you're having. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you're, as you're writing it, you're unsure, oh, do they want this section to go in this direction or this direction, just send them an email, text, call, talk to them,
Yeah.
and figure out what directions you want to go. Because if it's the wrong direction and you send it as the final draft, they're going to crush that in one of those revisions. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of that kind of stuff, just client relation stuff. But as far as knowing when you're ready to I think that it's very personal on just how quickly you're grabbing onto writing style, how
Mm-hmm.
efficient you are, and yeah, it's very person dependent, I think. And as you're doing it, obviously you'll get faster and more efficient and that kind of stuff. But I think it's things to be mindful of as far as billing and compensation,
Mm-hmm.
and then expected compensation too. Because if a project I'm writing for, let's say it's $1,000, and I think it's going to take me 25 hours to do it, so now I'm looking at 40 an hour, but it ends up taking me 38 hours. That sucks from a compensation standpoint.
Yeah.
Of I was expecting somewhat of one rate, and now all of a sudden it's almost halved, right? And maybe there's other clients I was hoping to work for that week or whatever. There's things like
Mm-hmm.
that you really have to be mindful of. But I think that's more of just freelance work in general, and not necessarily just writing, but just being a good freelancer.
And from that, you're making me want to ask this question because I just want our audience to have all the knowledge they need. So so let me start here. A lot of times we come out with our fancy degrees and we're saying I'm not getting paid X amount of hour.
Mm-hmm.
I have a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not doing that. I make XYZ. I can do that. I can make this money over here. So when does someone have to humble themselves and take something that, yes, you're getting paid less per hour. Yes, a doctorate typically be making more than this for this
Mm-hmm.
project, but when is it a wise decision to put pride aside and be humble and to strategically take projects that are they're making probably half of what they would earn somewhere
Yeah.
else or even less, more than.
Yeah. My mindset when I started it was kind of like residency. So we know what an average pharmacist salary is, and the average resident salary is about 45,000. It's about a third of what we'd expect. But I knew going into residency, it's not for the money. I'm doing it to learn all these skills so that I can do a different type of pharmacy job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the same mindset as I went into writing, is that this is going to take a lot of time, but I'm learning how to do this. If I'm still in this situation where it's taking a lot of time after like a year, then maybe I need to figure out, are there things I'm doing that aren't efficient enough? Should I be asking questions to the editor or some senior writer saying, how do you approach this kind of stuff? I'm finding that it's taking me 10 hours to do this part.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you, and how do you do it, and why?
Mm-hmm.
And still learning, but I think, for me at least, the compensation part, a year, so I'm learning. So I have to learn these skills. So I'm kind of getting paid to learn. So that's part of the compensation piece. If I'm thinking of from like a W-2 perspective, like working as a full-time employee,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen some job postings where just like an entry-level medical writer at like a pharmaceutical company or some other type of industry type writing company. It's been like, I've seen them between 80 and 105,000,
Mm-hmm.
because again, they're hiring master's degrees, PharmDs, PhDs. So the salary is high, but if I'm thinking as a pharmacist, that's a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm convinced I want to be a medical writer, do I take that job, kind of like a residency,
Mm-hmm.
and sacrifice that part of my salary, but knowing I'm going to be learning a lot, I'm going to be getting a ton of industry experience, a ton of writing experience.
Mm-hmm.
Senior medical writers I've seen job postings in the 150s and 180s. Or do you become a director of the medical writing? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the growth
Yeah.
potential of taking that sacrifice is great. Just like the
Yeah.
growth potential for pharmacists can be great if you're in certain areas. You definitely got to weigh out the decisions. There's definitely a right time for each one. There's ways to do all of this without taking the sacrifice. Like we're starting our own website, writing on social media. There's ways around it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's still a sacrifice, right? Because
Yeah, still time.
you're not.
Yeah.
It's time with zero
And
compensation.
zero compensation.
Maybe you get enough traffic onto your website that it pays for the website for the first couple of months,
Yeah.
but from ad revenue. But if you're building that as the sacrifice to have a portfolio to land clients,
Yeah.
and those clients are going to see, oh, they write well, and they've been doing this for a year. Oh, they're efficient too. Now those clients, that compensation might be higher.
Mm-hmm.
So that is still a sacrifice too. So I think regardless, it's going to be a sacrifice, but
So you,
you're learning a skill too.
yeah, so you should be going into it with the expectations that just because I have this degree does not mean that I can demand this salary, especially being realistic about where you're at coming into that space
Yeah.
and being strategic about the projects you're taking on. And then I guess how long it takes for you to feel confident is really about how many reps you're putting in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like everything,
Like, yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, that's really good for people to understand because they might be looking at it for like as a side gig, thinking they're gonna come in making a bunch of money, and you might have to put some skin in the game first before you start seeing that.
Yes, but I love that phrase, like, well, just in general, like as a side gig, about making a bunch of money. But
Hmm.
I mean, realistically, let's define what a lot of money is. I mean,
That is very
like
subjective.
when I got into it, the pharmacy salary is great, but then you look at all the things we have to pay for: student loans, the rent, cars, a family. I mean, everything. It's expensive.
Mm.
And what would I mean? Let's say we have a side gig that makes an extra $3,000 a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
That's a
great.
ton of money. But what if I offered you a side gig that you were doing, let's say, an extra 20 hours of work a month, so 5 hours a week,
Okay.
but I'm going to pay your car bill and I'm going to pay for your internet every month.
Well, I just leased a car and that bill is billing right now. So
Okay.
me personally, I'm
Okay.
like, yeah,
So I'll
yes,
say my
sir.
truck payment's $560 and my internet is about $90. So let's just say $650. Let's just
Yeah.
round to $650. So if I say I would pay $650 a month, but let's not even look at the numbers. I'm just going to pay your car bill and your internet.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty powerful. Now all of a sudden those bills aren't coming out of your salary
Yeah.
anymore. And so even just an extra 500 or 600 a month, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that could be all your utility bills and whatever. It could be your beer money and utilities. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't
It
have to
adds
be,
up.
it doesn't have to be thousands extra a month. Just doing one or two articles that are paid a month can be impactful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how much is someone's student loan bill? I mean, if we're on income-based repayments, maybe it pays your student loans. I mean, there's just so many things that the extra breathing room that even
Mm-hmm.
just 500 a month makes is powerful.
Yeah.
And then if that does grow to where now you're making $1,000, 1,500, $2,000 extra,
Mm-hmm.
but you've gotten efficient to the point that I'm still only doing about 10, 15 hours a week. Let's say it's only 10 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's crazy. If we break it down to the hourly rate, maybe it's not as appealing. And this is just really in general to any side hustle, or any side project, but like maybe it's not as appealing at the hourly rate compared to what we make as pharmacists at an hourly rate
For like entry.
right?
Yeah.
But 500 a month, $1,000 a month, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it can mean a lot. So
Absolutely.
that was my approach to it when we think of just like sacrifice. Like that was how I phrased it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It.
And two things I want to hit on that because my brain just bounced around. If you're freelance and you're making $1,000 a month, you're taking 30% out and putting it to the side for taxes on your own.
Saving money. Yeah. I'm not, so that money that's coming in, most of it doesn't even get spent in general. Most of it, I've just been building savings.
Yeah.
And
you have to manage your own tax deductions for those.
You have to manage your tax deductions, especially if you're starting your own LLC or that kind of stuff. Yes. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Yep. Do all the right things. For me, though, it was really, I wanted to make sure I had emergency funds and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And just if anything happens, I don't want to have to rely on credit cards. So I don't think I really spend a lot of the money that I make from writing, if we're talking about finances now. But it's nice. Yeah.
Well, you're a family man. You better be stewarding that money right now.
Anything can happen at any point. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the second thing, we talked about it, like you think about how much money you spent to get your degree. Mm-hmm. Like you paid them to learn, and you're in how many thousands of dollars of debt, Mm-hmm. So if you can change your mindset to I'm getting paid to learn,
yeah,
that shift alone can change the way that you go into that
Oh
situation.
yeah.
And so it also gives you more time to give yourself grace, because you don't have to be a workhorse
Right.
at it either. You can take your time, take on projects as it's a rate that's comfortable for you.
Yeah.